Hey, what's going on, guys? Fareed Mahdi here from Massive Appeal, and I have my special guest here, Usman Sadiq. Usman Sadiq, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yes, Usman Sadiq here. I've been practicing as a family lawyer for about 5 years now. I've known Fareed for about, how long has it been? Like 20 years? 30? Wait, how old am I? I'm 33. We met when I was like, 13, 14?
Yeah, so like, holy shit, 20 years.
That's insane. That is insane.
Time flies.
Time flies.
Wow.
Time flies.
You don't realize it until you add up those numbers.
That's right.
But, so yeah, you started doing family law 5 years ago, went to law school. What made you get into family law? Because I know you started with, you did your articling in personal injury, right?
Yeah, I did my articling in personal injury. My first year of law school, I had an opportunity to work with a real estate lawyer in my summer, and I hated it. It was the worst experience ever in terms of being exposed to an area of law. It was boring, number one, mundane, and just same routine over and over again. Was it that
specific firm that was making it
No,
boring,
I think generally it's just that area of law itself was extremely boring. But it was fantastic in terms of the learning experience of how to run a business and how not to run a business and what to do and not to do.
Mm-hmm.
So the small little sole practitioner startup, and an amazing experience in that sense. I really got to see how somebody who's starting out, the kind of stress they go through, what they have to do on a daily basis, right? So it was an amazing learning experience, and I thank him, the individual who let me have that opportunity. Because I learned a lot from him in that respect as well. And then in my second and third year law school, I wanted to make money essentially. That was the goal. And I said, you know what? Why don't I try personal injury? And my second year summer, I was exposed to it in my training period, which is the articling period, which is kind of like the equivalent of residency for doctors. For about 10 months, I did that, and then I realized I didn't enjoy personal injury either.
Were you into personal injury at all, like, before you did your articling, or you just kind of like, what made you get in? What made you apply there for your articling? Was it that's the only place you got in, or was it like you only applied to personal injury places?
Well, my second year, they had this, in my second year of law school, in the fall semester of your second year, they had this process called on-campus interviews, where you go in and you basically get to interview with, multiple firms in different practice areas, right? Those corporate firms and general practice firms. And I landed about 7 or 8 interviews, and I didn't get any call back. Right? I was tripping out. I was like, wait a minute, I'm in my second year. And I had stellar grades. I had like a top 10 percentile, whatever. So I thought I was a badass, top of my shit. I thought I knew everything, right? So this is an easy breezy. Walk in, do the interview, and I'm done, right? Then reality hit me in the face. I was, wait a minute, it's not just about the grades, right?
What else is it?
So then I went to panic mode, and then I think from like November in my first semester of second year to like January, like almost like 3 months, I was just like sending out massive emails. Like I probably should have invested in like an automatic email sender or something, but what do you call those things?
Like an autoresponder?
Yeah, like you send like multiple, like MailChimp or something.
Yeah, so like some sort of.
I probably should have invested in that,
or
but I was just like, I'm pretty much like technologically handicapped, so. I literally manually sent out like 300 emails, I think, like random firms, like everybody, right?
Okay.
And luckily, I guess I landed in one firm in Markham, who was doing personal injury, right? And got a call in January or something, and called me in February, and then they said, okay, you know what? For your second year summer, which runs from like May, June, July, August, right? I did personal injury there, basically. So once I started doing personal injury, I saw the amount of money these lawyers were making. I was like, holy crap, this is money, right? And that time again, I'm like, this is easy breezy. Just walk in, and get trained in this area and start my own business, right? So then in my articling, so this is after third year, you have a training period for 10 months, right?
So that firm, that was like a smaller firm?
It was a smaller firm, It was a smaller firm. It was like, probably had like they had 2 lawyers, 1 articling student, and like 2 clerks, I think. But they were doing good, right? They had like all these files, and basically working there, I was like, you know what? Why don't I give it a shot with a bigger firm, right? So then what I did was in my third year, in the second year summer, when I'm working at the small firm, you make applications. You send out applications to for the training period requirement, right? So I sent out a few applications, and I really just targeted personal injury firms, the big ones, right? Like like the Bay Street equivalent of personal injury firms, you could say, right? And I landed an interview with a very well-known firm up in Barrie, and got called in, got the interview, landed the articling position. So now I'm on I'm like on top of the world, thinking, okay, this is it, I'm set, right?
Yeah.
So then I started articling in July or August.
Articling is 8 months or
10 months? 10 months. So I wrote the bar first. After I finished my third year, I wrote the bar, and then I started in I think August.
Okay.
Right after my third year of law school. So I'm done law school now, and then what I do is for 10 months I articled up in Barrie, and slowly over the course of a few months I started realizing that maybe I made a mistake.
Yeah. What was the reason?
I hated it. It sucked.
Is it because personal injury they're doing shady stuff or
Well, not necessarily. Just there's a few things.
The big firms are not really doing the shady stuff.
Well, not really. And the thing is, no one's really doing anything shady. It's more just the nature of the practice where you come across certain clients or individuals. Yeah. And that's, as a lawyer myself, in terms of generally speaking, you deal with different characters all the time, right? So it's not like you're involved in being shady. Yeah. It's just the characters you meet, they may be shady. Yeah. And you can't your role is not to investigate and find out what the real truth is. It's more okay, you come to me, you tell me your story, and within the ethical bounds, I have to present your case, right? So anyways, that was probably part of it, but a big part of it was just really boring, to be honest with you, right? I was day in, day out reading medical reports, and then it got to a point where whenever I was driving, I'm I might get in an accident or something, right? Yeah. On top of that, just from a business perspective, I realized that this was not an easy industry. It was very competitive, number one. And also from the practice of law itself, I realized I had a lot more training to do. It wasn't once I'm done training, I can open up my own firm right away and have 10 lawyers working for me and everything's going smooth, right? So that's kind of more a reality hit, right? And I think a lot of articling students do go through that, right?
Do you think... let's say you worked at a huge family law firm or a criminal law firm, wouldn't it kind of have the same experience or not really?
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe. And I think at that time really what it was just the adjustment factor, right? That you're just graduating from law school. Yeah. And now you have sort of this theoretical or academic understanding of how everything works. Yeah. And then there's reality, right? Yeah. And as the months grew, now the firm was fantastic. Learned a lot. Learned a lot about. And now I look back and I realize what I learned. But in that state, I thought I wasn't learning anything, right? You think, oh, this is all pointless, right? And that's the interesting thing about life itself. As you're going through certain motions throughout life, you think, you know what? This is pointless, but it all kind of connects at the end of the day, right? So I learned how important it was to have systems in place for a business, how important it was to have a good schedule. The guys I was working with, for example, the two partners there, these guys are in their 60s, and they're up at 6 a.m. in the morning, working out in the office, hustling, bustling, and then going back working out in the evenings, I think even they said. But just that focus, that drive, that's what I saw in them, right? And I realized, you know what? It doesn't matter how smart you are necessarily. Yeah. It's more about the systems you have and how much focus and determination and drive you have, right? And then it all kind of fits in together, how to talk to people, how to deal with people, the business aspect itself, right? How to manage employees, how to manage yourself, manage your relationships with even opposing counsel, or in this case we were dealing with insurance companies and stuff like that, right? So anyways, then what happens is I think on top of that I got married while I was articling, so that was kind of weird.
Why are you articling?
Yeah, it was kind of a curveball, right? I thought it would be very easy to deal with, and then I realized, wait a minute, I probably should have either got married before or maybe got married after I finished my articling, right? So then wedding happened dead center in articling, and
so wait,
took some time off.
Was it so some people when they think of articling on a Bay Street law firm, they're working crazy hours, 60, 80 hours. Was it kind of like that, or was it more 9 to 5 kind of thing?
You could make it 9 to 5, right? But then you're not really gonna learn much, I'd say, because a lot of the learning happens before you start or after hours. You kind of have to really work with what you there's a learning curve, right? So within a learning curve, you're not going to be able to learn it in 9 to 5. Okay. It requires you to think about it after hours, and on the weekends you kind of do some homework and stuff, right? And it got to a point where it was almost 9 to 5 near the end, but maybe that was because I was getting a little lazier at the end as well, kind of disillusioned from personal injury. I wasn't really concerned about being a personal injury associate. So when I finished that, what happened, I took a few months off. I just got married.
Did you know right away that you're not going to do personal injury?
Pretty much like in the last few months, I was like, you know what, I gotta find something else, but I had no idea what it was gonna be. I was actually pretty confused.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, where Freed steps in, and then, you know, Freed gives me an idea that, hey, why don't you start your own firm? And I thought he was crazy. I was looking at him like, Freed, you're nuts.
Yeah.
You know what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So I think I took 3-4 months off.
Fast forward till you started the actual firm. That was when.
So I started the firm December 2013. 2013, I believe, or 2012. I think it's 2013. Yeah, December 2013. I started the firm. And at that time, again, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Really confused.
Yeah.
And it was more kind of like, you know, do or die situation. I was like, you know what, this is it.
Yeah. So
let's figure it out. Now, backtrack a few months. I did get an offer for a personal injury associate at another firm.
Yeah.
Where
you did articling?
No. It was actually where, it was somewhere else in like Markham, I think, or Toronto, the border of like Toronto, Markham.
Okay.
And I was like, whatever, let's try it out. Let's see what happens. And then at the same time, like, okay, you know what? I got this offer. That means I am able to get a job at least.
Yeah.
So let's try this business thing, right? Why not? So December I start the firm, but it was you know, my brother also, my younger brother Salman, he said, you know what? I'll help you out. Help you with the business aspect in terms of, you know, managing.
He didn't come on board right away, right? That was like
well, he was helping in terms of like setting up everything with me, right? Like just kind of like finding the office and setting up the office, that kind of thing, right? And then when we started in like end of December, early January, that's when, you know, you had made the website for us. So Freed had actually, you know, you I think you started making it in October or November. I don't know, like a few months before.
Yeah, I think we were trying to get it ready for like January, right?
Yeah. So anyways, so I think when that happens, then in January was like the first official launch, and like the first week went by, it was pretty interesting because like whenever I get a phone call, I would like jump up and like run to my brother and say, hey, we got a phone call, right? And I think our website had like 24/7 open and available, right? So I was like fielding calls like 11 at night, and every time the phone would ring, you know, it was pretty insane. Yeah. Right? And then...
Like how? Because you were just excited?
I just didn't expect anybody to call me. I was like, you know, whatever. I was very skeptical.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. And that's the thing I learned as well over the years, that you can't be skeptical. You can't be disheartened about anything. You kind of have to just go with the flow. And as long as you remain focused, like, what's the worst that can happen, right? And it's kind of like, I think one of our other friends, Imran, I think he talks about this. He said this once to me. He said, it's kind of like a heat-seeking missile, right? You have a target, and then you make adjustments accordingly so that eventually you're on target. So the first target was open the firm, right? Well, the target was to have a firm open and running, right? But first step in that was open an office, build a website, and then make that. The next adjustment was learn how to give a consultation. The next adjustment was learn how to close the client. The next adjustment was learn how to do the law, right? Or how to run the files. So there's adjustments every step, right? Step by step by step. And then I think after like 3 months, it got to a point where, you know, the phones were ringing off the hook. We're getting clients in. And Salman realized that my younger brother, he realized that he couldn't really handle a full-time job and work at the firm. So he was working full-time that time. And I think he was working from like 9 to 5 at Young and Shepherd. And then he would, I think he would bus it actually. He didn't have a car that time. So he would bus it, I think. Or maybe it was my dad's car. He would bring to Dufferin Finch, where our office was, and then from there it was like 6 to like 9. So I'm there from like 9 to 9 basically, right? And he's also working 9 to 9. Yeah. So then it got to a point where it wasn't sustainable. Where like realized, you know what, we think you gotta quit your job here. Yeah. So for him, it was a big leap of faith as well, because at that time he was also married, and it's like quit your job, right? Quit your job and come work with me. And there's no like, you know, there's no security net in the sense that, you know, there's no guarantee.
Well, he waited a little bit to see how it was gonna go. He didn't. Before, like,
that's true. That's actually a very important point. You're right. Absolutely right. He didn't. Like, it was a calculated risk. Yeah. It wasn't like this gamble. It wasn't like a gamble, basically, right? Like, it wasn't like whatever, we'll leave to chance. But sorry, it was a calculated risk, but still, like, it wasn't like he was making. It wasn't like he was making anywhere near what he was making at his previous firm, right? So. Comes on in March, I think April, and then from there we had one office and a cubicle. Yeah. And then what happens is by like June, July time, we realized, okay, you know what, maybe it's not as impossible as we thought. Mm-hmm. And we realized, you know what, it's just about being, you know, just staying focused, right? Day in, day out. So Monday to Sunday, basically, I'd say. We were living there, right? Consistency is key, right? Kind of like working out. You know, if you go to the gym and you go once a week, good luck. You're not going to see any benefits. But if you go to the gym like 4 or 5 times a week and you go for 12 months, you'll be a beast, right? And it's only like half an hour or 45 minutes a day. So sitting and working, right? Like it was really just making sure we had focused time. Like people think you got to work like 24 hours to run a business, but it's not about the hours, it's the quality of hours too, right? So that was a big kind of wake-up call to me as well, realizing that it's about being efficient throughout my day and just really learning and then building on what I've learned and then applying that and then moving on to the next goal, right, of learning. So learning every day, learning every week, every month, every year. But I guess to answer your question of why I got into family law, a fluke, I think. Like I think when we started, we were also doing immigration. Yeah. But the website we created was family law. We saw a market for it. I think even, again, you had suggested to us, hey, why don't you try out simple divorces? Take on some easy cases. And who knows, you might make like, a few cases and you learn from that, right? And that's the advice you were giving me, actually, that's how you learn. I was in panic mode, I think, back in like October to know what I wanted to do. And then I think after 4 or 5 months of realizing that, okay, there seems to be something here in family, I started enjoying it as well. And I really started enjoying the kind of like just being involved in everything, learning the business side, the consultation, the legal side, dealing with clients, dealing with other people. It started to become enjoyable, right? And that was the big kind of wake-up call at that. It was like it was a new reality check, basically, for me that, you know what, it's not so bad. And you don't have to necessarily know what you want to do in life to be good at something. To like this whole thing of like pursue your passions, I think is BS, to be honest with you. Yeah. I don't believe in it. Yeah. Because I think what matters more is to become really good at something. Yeah. And once you become really good at something, you will enjoy it. Because a lot of times we don't get joy or we don't find satisfaction in things because we don't know how to do them, or they're too stressful, or this is too difficult, for example, right? But if you become good at something and then you can make money off of it, then you will start to enjoy it, obviously. Yeah, you definitely find it enjoyable, right? Like, it's just, like, so easy now, right? Like, it's like, you know what? I'm making money off this. People are happy. My clients are happy. And I'm making money off this. So then it's just kind of day in, day out. You realize that, you know what? I enjoy being good at something. That's kind of like a human, I think, need. As human beings, we need to want to feel valuable and good at something, right? So I learned a lot about myself as well. It's in the last few years too, right? So yeah, family law is kind of, I guess you could say, it's kind of like an accident I fell into it. Yeah. But definitely enjoy it now.
Going forward, do you think you're just gonna focus on family law or dabble in some other areas of law, or what are you thinking in the future?
I thought about it a lot, but I think where we are right now and looking back at the 5 years, one thing I've learned also is that once you got something good, don't be looking at other areas too quick or other opportunities when you have something really good in your hand already. Yeah. Because you're better off staying focused in one area than dabbling. And this is actually a very common issue in lawyers as well. Like, there are some lawyers who do general practice, and there's different reasons for that, right? Some have to, out of necessity. And you can't blame them, right? They got to put food on the table, right? Yeah. So, I know some people are like, oh, this guy does everything. He dabbles in it. Oh, that's fine, like, if he's doing it because he has to put food on the table. Mm-hmm. But once you've passed that and you have the ability to have security in your life, I'm talking about basic needs, right? Like, you got your rent covered, your car covered, and your food on the table. Yeah. Then it's better to focus in one area and become a specialist in it, because you will make just so much more gains. And again, it's that time, right? Like, you don't have time on your side to be dabbling in everything, right? So I tried it. I tried even like up until like a few months ago even. I tried experiment, actually. I wanted to take on a criminal matter. Yeah. It was so bizarre because I didn't know anything about it. And I somehow got a client. It was like a pro bono case. Yeah. And I'm calling my buddy in Windsor, Khalid. Yeah. I'm calling him. And he's basically training me on how to do everything. But it was just so much anxiety associated with it. On top of that, even the guy knew I didn't know what the hell I was doing, right? Yeah. The client who I was dealing with, he knew. He's like...
Was this a referral from like a family case?
It was in the community. It was in the community. Okay. Someone knew me. Yeah. So like, whatever. Like, I'll do a pro bono. Yeah. But what was funny was like, I realized right then and there, again, it was a reminder check, right? That, look, this is why you don't dabble, right? Like, when you have something good going, that time that I invested in learning something new, I could have spent those 20 hours on my own business, right? And just learning something different, right? Or in my field, but, learning something new in my own field, right? So, and also just, I think in the day and age we live in, there's a need to be a specialist now in every area, right? So back in the days it was different, right? Back in the days, you had to be a general practitioner because that's how the nature of the game was.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't necessarily be able to acquire clientele at a volume by just doing one specialty area. So you would have to do everything, right? But now it's a lot different, right?
Do you have any advice for people that are thinking of going into law school, thinking of getting into law, that are maybe about to write their LSAT or like anything like that?
Again, yeah, so it's very difficult for me to tell anybody to go or not to go because I think it's a very personal decision. But there are some basic like principles, right, that I think apply across the board, whatever you're doing. Like, number one, don't expect that whatever you decide upon before applying or even in law school, that necessarily that's going to get you, like, that's what you're going to end up being. So, for example, before I went to law school, I wanted to be a criminal lawyer, right? Yeah. I was taking criminology in undergrad, and naturally, because I was in that field, I said, you know what, I'll be a criminal lawyer, right? And it turned out that now I'm a family lawyer, right? Like, completely opposite, I guess, end of the spectrum right here. I think. Well, in some respects, they're kind of intertwined, but criminal law is very different in its own respect, right? Yeah. But one thing I would give advice to anybody is that whatever you're going to do, it's fine. Just don't be hung up on the fact that you have to find that perfect area of law or that perfect kind of like area of study or business, whatever it is. Just become really good at what you do, meaning develop the skill set, right? The principles, because those principles can be applied in any area, right? Like if you want to be a criminal lawyer and you test it out for a year and you hate it, well, at least the skills you've learned of how to communicate effectively, how to advocate for your client effectively, how to research effectively, you can then switch gears and test out a different area, right? Mm-hmm. Or let's say you hate law. You're like, law sucks. I hate it. Which I've heard people say that, right? And that's fine. But then maybe use those skills that you've learned in law school of critical thinking and, just how to approach a problem, break it down, and then attack it. You can use that in any area, really. Right? And there are people who do that. There's lawyers who now are no longer practicing, but they're working in government jobs and policy development, for example, or some become consultants, for example, or they go completely different. They become teachers even, right? Academic area, for example. So I don't think it really matters if you know what you want to do. Again, like I said earlier, no one really knows, I think. I think that's something that's developed over time. Like when I was a kid, I wanted to be a police officer. Yeah. At one point, I wanted to be an astronaut, right? Yeah. So I don't think, that really plays a big role.
Okay, last question before you wrap things up. Now, people that are in law, people that are already lawyers or just in the legal field generally, what should they do in terms of online marketing or digital marketing to like either get more clients, get their name out there, or get more referrals? What's your take on that?
Definitely. I think in the day and age we live in, understanding how digital marketing works, understanding how advertising works, understanding how to communicate yourself to the outside world of why they should contact you is very important now, right? Because everybody this day and age is Googling something, they're on their mobile, and if you cannot be in that market, you're going to have a very difficult time, exposing yourself to clients, right? A different type of clients, right? And that's one of the benefits of online marketing, that you can really just kind of, get out there right away, right? And then equally important, I would say, is that once you do have a website, if you do have digital marketing, or whatever marketing strategy you have, once you're doing it, stick to it for not 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. You always want to make sure that you've exhausted all avenues before you give up on a particular area, right? And in some respects, some areas are a no-brainer, right? Like, if you have a choice between digital marketing, meaning like website development, SEO, and even AdWords, versus radio, like you'd probably want to test out online first because it's cheaper, right? Rather than investing like in like CP24 ads right from day one, and then you realize, wait a minute, this is probably not as because online marketing is very effective, right? In terms of
not necessarily effective, but measurable, right?
Sorry, measurable. Yes,
you can see exactly how many people came, how many people play, versus CP24
it's targeted.
radio.
It's targeted.
Targeted as well, right? Instead of just targeting everyone, you're targeting specifically the people that are looking for your service.
That's right, and hire free. That's what it was. Okay. But the other thing was, what I was going to say was, and then once you get the clientele from your online marketing, make sure you don't ruin your reputation, right? Like, don't get caught up in like, I gotta just increase my budget from day one, and now I got to get more clients and build your systems, build your marketing plan properly, and then establish a proper, credible, reputable reputation online as well, right? So yeah, you may be able to get 10,000 clients, but now you're getting 900 bad reviews every month, right? So that's not smart either. So take it step by step, but overall, the fundamentals are the same, right? Like make sure you connect with those people who are experts, whether it's in digital marketing, whether it's in any area, really, right? Like you want to always reach out to the experts. You can't do everything yourself, right? It's impossible. And that's another learning lesson I've learned, that everybody has their own contribution to your success. So you always need to rely on other people, right? And that's, now I'm getting to like this kind of like philosophical area.
Okay.
Like philosophy or but it's true, right? Like the world has a way of giving back as well, right? So always recognize that those who have something to offer, you always take advantage of that, and you always try to give back as well, right?
Yeah.
Because I've learned that in business as well. It's a huge thing, right? Like we have clients, for example, who are going through difficult times, and we always try to help them, give them fee discounts, that kind of stuff, even, right? And I noticed that, like overall, then you get good reviews, clients respect you, right?
Yeah.
And even your business relationships, your business dealings, all that stuff matters, right? So it's not just putting a website up and boom, I'm good to go. That's what I'm saying. There's steps, adjustments you make day by day, learning lessons, and learning from them, moving on, right? And then making sure you don't forget those lessons, right? So, but overall, yeah, fantastic experience. 5 years, counting. Yeah.
All right, perfect. All right, guys. Again, this was Usman Sadiq. I'll put a link in the description to his website. It's simpledoors.ca. He's a family lawyer. But if you guys have any questions for him or me directly, put them in the description, and we'll try to get those answered for the next video. Thank you.